Okay, this hat we always call Old Spicy, and we're going to continue our talk about ascension symptoms. In the last talk, I explained that people who are not initiated into the idea of ascension, which is raising your consciousness. You can look at the scale of human consciousness, it's easily available on the internet, or you can look up Dr. David R. Hawkins, who did a lot of consciousness research with the scale of human consciousness. And we explained that if you're feeling sick, we're going to call it ascension symptoms, and it's because you're working to raise your consciousness, and anything that's in your, let's call it your aura or your mind, that is of a low vibration, low on the scale of human consciousness, it's dis-ease, and it makes you feel sick. So you want to let it go. And quite often, these things, when you're working on yourself to raise your vibrations, these things are like anchors holding you down, and they have to be let go of. And it's not like a physical, I got to let that go. It's, again, it's a terminology that people who are working on themselves use. How do you let go of these things? Well, quite often for me, I get terrible pain in my lower back and hips. So for me, it happens every day. It's happened every day for 2 years. And what I have to do is I have to spend a lot of time being quiet and just breathing. That's all. Incapacitated. I'm incapacitated for a good part of every day. It's ascension symptom. Sometimes I call it fibromyalgia because that's what they call it in medical. But it's just so that people understand what it feels like. But it's ascension symptoms. And what I'm doing is I am processing dense energy. Where is I'm feeling it in my body, but it might be somebody who's connected to me who's got a lot of density that, I'm taking on their density. Could be from the collective all of humanity. I don't know where the density is coming from, but we know planet Earth and the humans on it are, generally speaking, of a low vibration. And that's why we're working to raise our consciousness to become more conscious and more healthy. And if you get stuck with disease and sickness, then it's horrible. It's absolutely horrible, horrible, horrible. And the only thing that sometimes makes it bearable is to know that there are other people who have been on raising their consciousness, doing this consciousness thing, and they also feel horrible. So that's the way I look at it. I'm not the only one suffering with this, and it's density. The spiritual teachers are all over the place. They know about this. It's density is stupidity. It's being in a contracted state of consciousness. It's where you close down all your chakra system. They're all closed down and not functioning correctly. Your energy body is not functioning correctly. So there's a lot of processing of this dense stuff. Is there any way to avoid this? Sorry, no. Because even people that haven't heard this information and aren't doing anything in particular to raise their vibration, might still, their internal alarm clock goes off and they start having ascension symptoms because there's a lot of people around you who are, maybe they're doing yogas, you just all around with a lot of people, and people are at different levels on the scale of consciousness. And if you come into contact with someone who's doing some of this work, it might trigger you. Sorry, that's what's going on planet Earth right now. It's a great, enormous change in consciousness among human beings. And that's the way it is. So, if you feel sick, what should you do? Generally speaking, what you would always do. If you're a hypochondriac, in other words, every time you have an ache or a pain, you take a pill, well, maybe you're going to keep doing that. But the whole idea of my talking to you is to broaden your view on what's going on with you. And the reason I gave you an alternate information than what you'll get from big pharmaceutical companies is they're never going to talk about consciousness. Never. Never, never, never. They simply want to sign you up to a prescription in perpetuity to their prescription drugs so they can make lots of money for you. For them. Because it's greed. It's just bottom line, profit driven, and they don't want you to look at alternative theories that might make you reconsider taking this pharmaceutical drug. You also have to be aware that in our culture, there's still plenty of people who believe in the medical model of disease. So if all of a sudden you stop taking your prescription medications, a lot of people that know you are going to freak out. So even when you know the information that I've told you, that this is all the disease is due to low vibrational items in your field or in your mind or in the greater mind of all, that all of us are connected to, sometimes you got to continue because it helps to keep other people around you calm, and that's important. So, even if you don't think the pills are going to work for you, if it keeps your mother-in-law from calling you 3 times a day, are you taking your medication? Are you taking your medication? Just take your medication so she doesn't call you anymore. It's like the hassle factor. We got to live in this world with the people wherever they are, and But I'm not going to stop talking about the way that I see these things, and sometimes that triggers these people that believe everything is solved by a pill or an operation. In any event, that's my talks on Ascension symptoms. Other things that happen with Ascension symptoms, some people have terrible migraines, sinus issues where you can't seem to breathe. You already talked about body aches. You might experience other weird things that aren't related to pains in your body. You might start experiencing incredible coincidences, prophetic dreams. You might find that electrical things start acting weird when you're around. Maybe you'll start noticing as you walk, if you walk down the street at nighttime, that as you walk by a street light, the street light goes out, or comes on and goes out, or starts flashing like a strobe light. You might find that when you get around computers, that the computers crash, or that your phone reboots itself all by its lonesome. You never touched it, and then all of a sudden you see, oh, look, the phone's rebooted. It's important to spend as much time as you can alone, because being alone means that you're not frustrated by other people talking to you about mundane, boring topics that are really of no interest to you whatsoever. So, avoid people that are just talk about the weather. Spend time in nature as much as you can. Try and get some fresh air. And if you don't feel well, don't feel guilty about, having feeling like you just can't do these things. If you're like me and you end up with what seems to be like a fibromyalgia that goes on and on and on, you might stop working because you don't have the energy to do these things, and don't feel guilty about it. Don't let people run you down because you can't do it. You can't do it. You can't do it.